Revelation 8. The fourth angel trumpeted, and a third of the sun, and a third of the moon, and a third of the star was struck, so that a third of them were darkened. A third of the day would not shine, as well as a third of the night. Then I looked, and I heard the angel crying out with a loud voice as he flew high in the sky, saying, Woe, woe, woe to those who dwell on the earth, because the remaining blast of the trumpet the third angel are about to sound. This eclipse is taking place right next to the woman, which represents the church. The sun represents her love. The moon represents her faith. The stars represents her wisdoms. And the third of them are darkened is the condition of the church right now. And this eclipse is visible in America for this very reason.
I think it's about time we stop, those of us who support, as most of us do, Israel in this body, for apologizing for our support for Israel. There's no apology to be made. None. It is the best $3 billion investment we make. Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region. The United States would have to go out and invent an Israel.
Here in the United States, the Christian Zionist movement, John Hagee, go down the list of them. Perry Stone, Lance Wallnau, Stephen Strang at Charisma. You go down the whole list of Zionist puppets are clapping and cheering for this atrocity. They're delighted.
I mean, this is just so incredibly disingenuous on their part.
Why aren't they crying for peace?
Peacemakers.
Why aren't they calling for peace? Why aren't they negotiating? Why aren't they putting pressure on Israel? You have to stop treating the Palestinians like they're animals. You say you're the children of God, but you treat the Palestinians like they're rats. Why aren't these Christian leaders telling the Jewish Zionists, this is ungodly? You say you're the chosen people of God. You can't behave like this.
There is a religious group in America that is essentially monolithic in its support of the state of Israel and is behind a lot of the political lobbying in terms of America's political support of the state of Israel. And it is not American Jews. It is, in fact, white evangelical Christians obsessed with the end times. And evangelical Zionism is not about standing in solidarity with Jews. It is not about dismantling anti-Semitism. It is about using Jews as pawns to get geopolitics to line up with what evangelical Christians believe has to happen in order to bring about the return of Christ, based on, as my friend David put it, their 150-year-old fan fiction about the end of the world. It is also a position that is deeply rooted in white supremacy. It sees brown Arabs as subhuman. I have never heard Palestinians dehumanized and described as the literal enemies of God by a Jewish person in the way I have from evangelical pulpits and evangelical pastors. See their Christianity so rooted in whiteness that they are oblivious to the fact that many Palestinian Arabs are indeed their fellow Christians.
Why the fuck does Israel control Palestine's water? And a brief search got me to this fucking article by Amnesty International titled The Occupation of Water. Alright? Soon after Israel occupied the West Bank, including East Jerusalem and the Gaza Strip, the Israeli military authorities consolidated complete power over all water resources and water-related infrastructure in the occupied Palestinian territories, OPT. And I know what you're thinking. Well, they took over existing infrastructure, so build some new one. Israeli Military Order 158 stated that Palestinians could not construct any new water installation without first obtaining a permit from the Israeli army. Since then, the extraction of water from any new source, the development of any new fucking water infrastructure would require permits from Israel, which are near impossible to obtain. It gets fucking better. They are unable to drill new water wells, install pumps, or deepen existing wells, in addition to being denied access to the Jordan River, right? Israel even controls the collection of rainwater throughout most of the West Bank, and rainwater harvesting cisterns owned by Palestinian communities are often destroyed by the Israeli army. As a result, some 180 Palestinian communities in rural areas in the occupied West Bank have no access to running water. They don't have access to fucking running water, bro. What the fuck is going on here? Because the resulting disparity in access to water between Israelis and Palestinians is truly staggering. Water consumption by Israelis is at least 4 times that of Palestinians living in the OPT. Palestinians consume an average of 73 liters of water per day per person, which is well below the World Health Organization's recommended daily minimum. Motherfucking minimum. In rural areas, it's as low as 20 liters per person per day. And how much water do Israelis drink? Sure, I'll tell you. By contrast, an average Israeli consumes approximately 300 liters of water per day. You see, we talk a lot about values, but let me tell you something about American values. If I took my fucking dog to a restaurant right now, the server or the owner on their own dime would bring out a cup of water for a stranger's fucking dog. For a stranger's fucking dog. This isn't during wartime. This is status quo. What kind of an insidious, fucking sick fucking government will make it a point to make sure, intentionally, that an entire population stays thirsty? People out here talking about freedom, voting rights, passports, airplanes. Can I get medical? Can I get education? Fucking water. You intentionally deprive a large group of people from having water. You are dehydrating children fucking intentionally.
It's been white phosphor again used. We filmed.
And then they cut him off.
Very operating in very dangerous, very difficult circumstances.
That's not some small YouTube journalist just bullshitting on the air. That is the British Broadcasting Company cutting their own journalists off for outing the Israeli army's use of chemical weapons, white phosphorus. What makes this shit so dangerous is that it's light and it can ignite on virtually any substance, and assuming when you breathe it in it doesn't give you respiratory problems, once this shit catches fire, it's almost impossible to put out. So when it touches your skin and it reacts to the oxygen so volatile, that's what happens, and it doesn't stop until it reaches your bone. And this is what the Israeli government is lacing with their munitions. It's kind of giving 2009 vibes because this shit's pretty much on repeat. I'm gonna go off script for a second. Like, hold on. I'm amazed still at how dumb all of you people are that are saying pray for Israel.
Breaking news overnight. Israel has ordered more than 1 million people in northern Gaza to evacuate the region in less than 24 hours. The unprecedented warning came in just before midnight last night. The United Nations says that is impossible.
Half of Gaza's population are children because most Palestinians don't ever make it past the age of 30 because the living conditions are so shitty. So let me get this straight. As the defenders of Israel, you want 500,000 kids, mostly under the age of 13, to traverse 50 miles of concrete jungle that's covered in white powder that could set them on fire. You need them to jog that shit in less than a day. Do I have that right?
Armed wing, a spokesman there has warned residents in Ashkelon, that is a town inside Israel, that they have until 5 p.m. today to leave. So Hamas have issued a warning on the television.
Nobody is defending Hamas or terrorists on this page, by the way. They're brutal people using tactics meant to instill fear. But there are three sides to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. You got the terrorist side, for whatever reason, decide to warn the civilians in Ashkelon. Then you got the Palestinians, and forget the whole apartheid state. They are currently getting bombed for something that the terrorists did, right? And then you got us, the Western governments, telling these people, hey, this is the evacuation route to Egypt, and then letting Israel bomb the evacuation route 3 times. Like, it's really hard to figure out who's the good guy in this situation. No, wait, I don't think you heard me. Like, you see these links? This is like the New York Times for Israel. Even the Jewish people are like, yeah, that's kind of fucked up that you told all the Palestinians not responsible for the terrorist attacks to pack up all their shit in suitcases and go evacuate in this one route, and then you bomb the route. Like, you bomb them as they're trying to leave the country. Like,